This is the side of my house. It's not exactly a perfect rectangle, but I'm going to be installing about a 19-foot by 6-foot slab. It'll be parallel against the retaining wall. I'm going to use the dry pour method, so I have a bunch of bags of cement ready to be hauled. But first, got to build out the frame. Okay, so I built the forms. You can see I'm going to do this in 3 sections, and the idea behind that is to allow for some expansion for the middle, but also, you know, since this is my first time dry pouring, I'm going to do this one first, see if I learned anything, and hopefully the following 2 will be better. So now I just got to figure out where to put this in terms of how close it'll be to this wall, because as you can see, it leaves a very narrow walkway between the sheds, which will eventually be on slab, and the side of the house. So I'm trying to maximize this space where the storage bins are. So I think this is the optimal space. One thing I had to consider was this outlet that we had put in. So I want to make sure that there's going to be space between the sheds to access it. Now, the next thing is to make sure that everything is as close to square as possible. So I'm using the dry pour method that was made popular by Cajun Country Living. There's a ton of videos out there that shows that it's a effective way of laying down a cement foundation or a slab, especially if you're doing it on your own. The most beneficial part is that you can take your time. You don't have to worry about it drying too fast. There's also some videos done by the Wabash Kid. He did a couple of dry pours and has a lot of good tips on how to make your foundation or your cement look as good as a wet pour. So one of the most difficult parts about doing a dry pour is making sure your edges look as nice as possible. So here you can see there's some smooth edges, and I did this by sifting some of the cement just to get the powder, and I put that on the edges, and then I used an edger to make the corners look smooth. The most important part about doing a dry pour is the screeding. Not only does it level the cement, but it also makes it so that the rocks settle down and you have powder on the top. But it also gets rid of air pockets and makes the cement look nice on the top. So after you're done screeding, it's time to wet the cement. So the first 2 mistings, you do it once every hour, and then you follow that by showering it every hour. So 1 shower for every ½ inch. I have 3½ inches, so I did actually 8 showerings. So here's what the edge looks like after I moved one of the forms. This is the second side. This is the first slab where I used a 1 3/4 form so that I could get this wire mesh through the bottom to connect to the middle slab. So you can see the edge, not the best. That's because I used powder and probably didn't allow it to set long enough. So, you gotta learn. Here's some of the imperfections. There's a little bubble there from overwatering. Then you can see some of the edges cracked, so I gotta fix that later. Corners look like crap, but again, I can fix that later. So I grossly overestimated how much cement I would need, so decided to use the extra, I think, 10 bags and create this slab. So now I have 4 slabs. So here's the finished product. It's not the best, but I'm gonna put some sheds on top of it, so it doesn't need to be perfect. It's good enough, especially as a DIY. I was quoted about $3,000 to $4,000 to get it professionally put in using wet pour. Doing it myself, it cost about $500, so significant savings. So my biggest complaint right now is just the edges. The edges aren't clean, but the Wabash Kid does have a couple of videos on how to fix that. The color's not going to be perfect, but again, I'm putting sheds on top of this, so most of this will be covered. So yeah, not bad for my first time using the dry pour method.